What's up, Kings fans? We're here, we're drinking beers, and we're talking about your Sacramento Kings. Real quick, guys, before we dive into today's show, we are giving away an autographed Marvin Bagley Basketball on July 29th during our live stream of the NBA Draft. You do want to enter in the sweepstakes to win this Marvin Bagley Autographed Basketball. We need three things from you. First, we need you to like this video. You have to subscribe to the channel. Wait to the end of this video, and Calvin is going to let you know what to write down below in the comments to enter the contest. Calvin, you want to let the fans know what we're talking about today?
Yeah, today we are talking about none other than Kings soon-to-be superstar, if he's not already one, De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron had the best year of his career last season. That is no secret, even though he was snubbed off the All-Star team. And we are here talking about what the next step is in the progression of our budding superstar.
Yes, we are. And as many fans know, De'Aaron Fox is starting the very first year of his max contract. It's a $163 million extension with incentives possible to reach $193 million. It is the largest contract in Sacramento Kings history, surpassing Chris Webber's monster contract that he signed towards the end of his career. With that large payday, that brings many questions as far as expectations. So Calvin, I know De'Aaron had an awesome season last year, 25 points per game. I think he was 15th on the points per game list last year. What can we expect from De'Aaron this year?
Well, I don't see why there would be any reason not to expect a very similar season. I think right around 25, 26, 27 points per game. You know, some of that maybe we'll have to see how Tyrese Haliburton progresses next season. Is he going to be taking more shots? Is he going to be scoring more? That might take a few points per game away from Fox. But this guy, you know, I said it on the show, on the Royal Report last year, for the next 6 to 7 years of his career, he should be right around 26, 27 points a game, 8 rebounds, 8 assists. So maybe 7 rebounds, 8 assists, something like that, which, you know, that's one of the top players in this league.
It definitely is. And I think what I'm most excited about is De'Aaron Fox's shooting percentage. Not only is he taking better shots, but he's much stronger. He's finishing through contact, and he's getting to the free throw line. I know in the bubble, De'Aaron Fox was only one of 5 players to average 25 points per game and shoot over 50% from the field. And he did even better last season, improving his field goal percentage and his effective field goal percentage. So very happy to see that. And I don't see any reason why he can't improve his scoring by at least a few points per game this year.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just looking at the numbers right now. And while he did improve in all of those categories that you mentioned, you know, we still definitely want to see more improvement. At the free throw line, I think most importantly, and at the three-point line. He started off really hot early in the year, but that three-point percentage still ended up being around 32% for the season. So definitely need to get that up a few more percentage points. I think he could be smarter about when he's taking that three as well. We definitely saw him shoot with a lot more confidence this year, and so he put up more threes than he has in the previous years of his career, which is great. You want to have that confidence. We know De'Aaron Fox's best part of his game is getting to the basket.
Mm-hmm.
He should be at the free throw line 8, 9, 10 times a game. He should be hitting 80% minimum of those free throws. So I think that is going to continue to be a focus for him going into next season. And if he can improve that three-point percentage to even 34, 35%, he is pretty much unguardable at that point, because you can't stay in front of him, and if he's going to step back and hit a three over you, what are you going to do?
Yeah, you and I had talked last season about De'Aaron's struggles at the free throw line, and he seems to have finally found his stride with his routine, and he's being a little bit more consistent. So I love to see that. As far as the three-point percentage goes, last year he had his best three-point shooting season other than his second year in the league. In his second year in the league, he only shot like almost 3 threes per game. Now he's shooting almost 6. So happy to see that he's increasing the volume and still staying consistent on the shooting percentage. So all good stuff there. I think we want to dive into Tyrese Haliburton a little bit. I don't want to steer too far off the subject of De'Aaron Fox, but I want to talk more about what Tyrese Haliburton means to De'Aaron Fox in this next season. And before we get into that, I want to remind everybody to make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, make sure you turn on your notification bell so you get all the notifications every time we put out a brand new video. And the more likes and subscribes we get, the more Kings fans will see this content. So,
absolutely. And before we talk about Tyrese Haliburton, I do want to say just one more thing on De'Aaron Fox, and that's that last year he really showed me that he looks the part of what a true team leader is, a guy who you know is your best player. He has the right mentality. He has the right attitude. He was very frustrated towards the end of the season, rightfully so. Injuries, the COVID protocol thing, and losing games. You know, they want to be in the playoffs. He really wants to take this Sacramento team back to the postseason. And you need your best player to have that type of demeanor and mentality. You know, it can't just be a guy who is a volume scorer and he's going to go out and he's going to get his 25 points every night, but he's not committed to winning and he's not committed to improving the overall team. And I don't see that from De'Aaron, so I'm very, very pleased with that.
Yeah, and, you know, so far so good. He said he's wanted to remain with Sacramento. He loves the city. He wants to make the playoffs. But, you know, you're right. Losing is a big drag on players. We saw it with Marvin Bagley now. We saw it with Boogie Cousins. We saw it with Rudy Gay. You know, there's a lot of past Kings that have been frustrated with the amount of losing that's happening. And it's a heavy load to shoulder. So hopefully Tyrese can come in here and help De'Aaron out a little bit this season.
It is. And in today's society, you know, everybody expects instant gratification for everything, which is another thing that's hard to put in perspective in sports. You know, you look at Michael Jordan, they didn't make the NBA Finals until he was in years like 7 or 8 of his career, something like that. Mm-hmm. You know, patience. De'Aaron Fox is very young still. The Kings are on the right track. As sports fans, we can tend to get a little ahead of ourselves.
Yep.
And I know it's hard when you haven't made the playoffs in 15 years, but this team is headed in the right direction, I think. And Tyrese Haliburton has a lot to do with that.
Yes. And, you know, I know, De'Aaron, this is your 5th year. You might be a little upset with losing. But take a step back and look at it from our perspective. 15 years of losing as a Kings fan. So you got about a third of the way through that. Luckily, you haven't been there for the entire process of all this losing. But I'm really happy to see the progress that's been made with this team. As I mentioned before, 3 seasons currently running now with over 40% win percentage. I know that's not a lot to celebrate, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. I'm happy about that. So, as far as Tyrese Haliburton goes, I know he's been selected to the men's select team this summer.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Coaches are raving about him and the way he sees the game, his communication skills, all that. And you and I last year right after the draft, we had some questions about how De'Aaron and Tyrese would fit together and how they would complement each other. And as the season went on, we were kind of more on board, right, with how things go. But what is it, do you think, that Tyrese can do this season to take some pressure off De'Aaron Fox?
I think he can just keep building on what he's already done. Tyrese is extremely smart as an individual and as a basketball player. That stands out to me above maybe anything else on the court. He knows the game. He knows how to fit into whatever it is that the Kings are asking him to do. He's a lethal shooter. He shot much better. We all knew he was a good shooter, but he shot much better than I think people expected him to, especially from three. And I think he can just keep learning from De'Aaron. You know, as he continues to fill out his body, he's already a little bit bigger in terms of height than De'Aaron is. So he's not as quick, but he's very shifty, and he can get to the basket as well. So I think he can continue to learn from De'Aaron in that regard. My favorite set that the Kings ran this past year was the dribble handoff set at the top of the key, which when you have De'Aaron and Tyrese out there at the same time, it's absolutely lethal at times because you have to account for now three people instead of two. It's like a three-man pick and roll.
Mm-hmm.
You've got two guys that can both shoot, that can both drive, and that can both make good decisions and dish the ball too, whether it's to Harrison Barnes in the corner, whether it's to Rashawn Holmes for an oop. So that, to me, I think is something that they've got to continue doing next season.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the obvious on the offensive end, De'Aaron's probably assist numbers are going to be a little bit better just with how good of a shooter Tyrese Haliburton has been. But for me, I think the major stride this year is going to be on the defensive end of the floor. You and I had preached last year that defensive struggles were basically the Achilles tendon of the Sacramento Kings. And you look at a guy like De'Aaron Fox, he's got all the skills in the world to be a great defender. But he shoulders so much of the load on offense that sometimes he needs to take a break. And you have a guy now like Tyrese Haliburton that can shoulder some of that offensive load and at the same time is a great on-ball defender. So he's going to give De'Aaron a little bit more opportunity on the defensive end to play that safety, to jump those passing lanes, to shut down a guy and have more energy for the defensive end of the floor. So I think that's what I'm most excited about.
I agree. In today's NBA, it's individual defense is great. You need those guys who are stoppers, people like De'Aaron Fox, Tyrese Haliburton. But the way you really win in the NBA now is team defense.
Mm-hmm.
Guys are too good at shooting. The way offenses are run, everything is spread. So having an individual defender is great, but guys are too good at dribble, handoff, dribble, kick to the corner. So it really takes an entire team effort here, which having De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Haliburton, that's part of the puzzle. Harrison Barnes is a good defender as well. They just need to continue to take that step. They were worst in the NBA in three-point field goal percentage. That's got to improve. They won't be a playoff team unless they are considerably better in that area next year.
Yes. Also, wanted to let you guys all know that we do have a team store at RoyalRebounds.com. You can get awesome apparel like this. The two shirts that Calvin and I were wearing in the last podcast are also available on RoyalRebounds.com. Please visit the store, support the channel, and show your support for your Sacramento Kings. So, Calvin, what percentage or what's the likeliness of De'Aaron Fox making the All-Star team this season?
It's got to be really, really high for me, but I'm a little gun-shy because I would have pegged him, 85% or better to make the All-Star team this year, and he didn't. It's just so difficult. If you don't get voted in by the fans, which not to say that De'Aaron shouldn't be voted in by the fans, but he's at a disadvantage playing in Sacramento because he's not going to get as many votes as guys like LeBron and these other big market team players. So that means the coaches have got to pick him, and is he deserving? Absolutely so. But there's a lot of guys. It's tough to make an all-star team. There's a lot of guys that are deserving and get left off. So I think he will be better this year than he was last year, which is crazy to think about because it was an amazing year for him. But I really do think he'll be better. So I would give him a 70% chance right now to make the All-Star team.
70% chance. Interesting. I mean, you look at a guy like James Harden is no longer in the West, so there's an extra guard spot in the All-Star game. But then you look at a guy like Devin Booker, who has been snubbed in the past, and he's obviously cemented himself as one of the top 10, 15 players in the NBA currently.
Ooh, that's a debate for another day, I think, but that's tough. Top 10 player. He's a great player, but top 10 is
he better than
very
De'Aaron
high.
Fox?
It's tough.
It's a tough question.
Say.
Yeah,
very, very
so
tough to say.
I ultimately think that whether De'Aaron Fox makes the All-Star team next year is really going to depend on the health of guys like Steph Curry,
Sure.
Klay Thompson, Chris Paul. You look at
we both agree that he's good enough to make the team without having to be an injury replacement.
Yes.
Yes,
He's definitely good enough to make the team. However, we have a little bit of Sacramento bias. And I don't say that in a bad term or a bad way. I just say that more in that we pay attention to what's going on in Sacramento. Not a lot of people pay attention to what's happening in Sacramento. So
that's true. But on the other side of that, De'Aaron's play this year turned a lot of heads. He got a lot of support and praise from not just guys in the league, but people who cover the league. And he's definitely starting to change that narrative a little bit, I would say.
So my prediction is going to be if the Sacramento Kings are 500 around the All-Star break, De'Aaron Fox will make the All-Star team. If they are sub 500, maybe 5 to 10 games below 500, he will not make the All-Star team, unfortunately. All right, so we're going to move on to our next category. We're going to briefly dive into this Tokyo Summer Olympics. It's been announced that no fans will be in attendance. De'Aaron Fox was not invited as part of the All-Star team. However, Tyrese Haliburton was selected as part of the men's select team. A little bit to celebrate there. Harrison Barnes, what's going on with him?
Well, pretty crazy that De'Aaron Fox is not on this list, but the original 57-man invitation that USA Basketball sent out, They send out all these invitations all over the league to all these guys that they are the first wave of people that they want to participate, and from there they whittle it down to who's willing to participate, and then they cut and so on and so forth. Harrison Barnes was on that list of 57 guys. De'Aaron Fox was not.
That's crazy to me.
I just don't understand it. I really, really don't understand it, actually. You cannot tell me that he's not one of the 60 players in the league that you don't want on USA Basketball.
It's got to be a fit thing, right?
Well, Greg Popovich is the coach.
Yep.
He's a smart guy.
He is.
But there were guys on that list like Duncan Robinson.
Yep.
Derek White, who plays for Greg Popovich.
Yep.
So, and I get it. You know, you're the coach. You're running the organization. It's your job to fit all those guys together. And again, that's just the invitation list. That's not who they actually are considering for the final roster. And the final roster is great. I mean, it doesn't have guys like LeBron James and Chris Paul and Anthony Davis, but it's, you know, it just goes to show how spoiled we are for USA Basketball, because this is a great team. And I find it pretty interesting. There's no real true center on this team either. Bam Adebayo is the only guy really that you could say plays center, but he's not really a true center, right? So it's really interesting, though. I'm very surprised that De'Aaron was not at least invited.
It just goes to show the way that the NBA is moving, right? Everybody's going to be 6'10", can shoot from anywhere, can guard every position, can pass the ball. We're spoiled now, you know, looking at these players nowadays and just the amount of talent they have. But for De'Aaron Fox not even to receive that initial invite, I hope that lights a big fire under him, and I hope he's ready to come out next season and kick some ass and take some names.
And it's surprising because he has been a part of USA Basketball in the past. Guys like Jason Tatum and Bradley Beal and Zach LaVine and these guys who are around the same age as De'Aaron, pretty close, and who have been a part of USA Basketball before. Generally, you see those guys kind of move up together. You know, it's supposed to be the changing of the guard. But like we said, there's so many good players that it's hard to cut one from the other and determine. And this year is a weird year, too. It's the strangest Olympics we've ever had. It was supposed to be last year. They're rushing it into this season. No fans. You know, a lot of guys have opted out. So
Calvin is going to let you know what to write down below in the comments to enter the contest.
It's very, very simple. All you have to do is type 2 numbers, and they happen to be on my shirt. 3-5.
All right, guys. I want to thank you all for joining us on another episode of the Royal Rebounds podcast. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll see you guys next time. Go Kings!
Go Kings!